Hopefully everybody's staying safe as this weather's slowly or quickly, looks like out my window, getting worse. Um, First item on the agenda here, Stephen's going to discuss the fiscal year 24 to 27 tip development. Stephen.
Yeah, thanks, Gary. I want to give everybody an update on all three of our programs, the CMAC, the TAP, and the STBG program. I'll start off with the STBG, our Surface Transportation Block Grant program. Just a reminder, this is typically our roadway resurfacings. We do bridge replacements, a lot of other projects as well, but that's what it typically is. If you want to see on the next slide, just kind of show you guys what we have available for the upcoming fiscal years. 24 to 27 is our new tip that'll be developed next spring. So this is really where we're looking for applications. The application cycle is now open, as always, on our funding tab on our website to see these dates. We do have letters recommended to be submitted, and that's February 28th. This is really just to give me time to make sure that everything's in line, both on your end for the local and on our end as a whole. And then final applications are due March 31st. Again, on our funding page, and the big green button there that says to click for more information will take you right to the STBG tab. And this will give you our sample resolutions, our fillable application. All this will be submitted to me digitally by March 31st. There's a handful of you that I'll reach out to individually to set up a session to talk through what you guys have as a program and see kind of what we can program from there. So any questions, I guess, first on the STBG program and what we're looking at here for applications? All right, then one other thing on the other two, we recently had cycles for the CMAC and TAP program. That's the resolution that you guys have presented today, and you'll vote through email. That's resolution 002-2022. All of our CMAC applications that were submitted were approved for funding. The executive director signed off on that at the very end of December. So you'll see all those projects on the resolution. And then our TAP program, our scoring committee met a few weeks ago, finalized a recommended list of projects. 7 of the 9 were recommended for funding. You'll see those on the resolution. The other 2 that weren't awarded funding or recommended for funding, you locals, it won't be seen on there. You'll receive a letter. And if you want to have some discussion with me about, I guess, what the committee saw with your project that scored lower than the others, want to talk through some things, absolutely available for that. So that's what you'll see on resolution 002. That's for, you'll see dates running all the way out through fiscal year 2027. So it's kind of working as getting those funds available now, getting those projects underway now, but also working towards developing that tip next spring, as I mentioned before. So that's all I have for today, unless there's any other questions.
Yeah, Stephen, I had a question. The infrastructure bill, I know particularly it may affect the STBG, but the other programs, do you see an influx of funding, starting when and how much?
Yeah, so we're starting to see internally, we're starting to see some emails and some spreadsheets trickle down. And there's still nothing that's definitive yet. Even speaking with central office about, when can we expect those increases? What are we expecting on them? They really just have estimates now that we're seeing, maybe 10 to 15% across each of our programs, and then obviously including all the new programs that bill is having available. So we're just kind of waiting. It may be in fiscal year 2023, and if so, we'll adjust and plan accordingly. But as soon as we know, I'm sure we'll provide that information to TAC. But really just best guesses from central office now that we're hearing.
Okay, yeah, I mean, you brought up new programs you feel would begin in fiscal 23?
That's really what we're hearing for their targets. It's not necessarily a guarantee, but we've had those discussions, and they've mentioned that the MPOs will be kind of asked to assist with the locals, really minimally, as we've done in the past with the township infrastructure, some things related to that. So don't worry on your end. We'll make sure that all the locals get all that information when we get stuff. But yeah, some of those programs sound like they could begin as soon as fiscal 23. Yes.
Okay. No, thank you, Stephen. Yeah, more money means more work for all of us, but it's a good thing.
Gary, it's Jim. Let me jump in, and I concur with Steve. I had an opportunity to meet with ODOT Director Marchbanks and then FHWA Director Leffler right before the holiday. They expressed and reinforced everything that Stephen said. A lot of money coming, some additional new programs and additional money in existing programs. I will be honest, I thought they were still up in the air on when it was coming out too, but they said, get ready. So Stephen's comments about possibly fiscal 23, I certainly agree with. I can tell you that Eastgate's intention is to be aggressive in helping our communities. We're in the process of bringing a contract employee on a part-time basis that would be focused just on the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, and being able to work through that and understand it and explain it better to our communities, and certainly make the opportunities for additional funds through grants available. So more to come in the very near future from what we're doing with the contract employee. Again, focused specifically on the IIJA law and being able to drag that money up north, up to our areas here for our community. So we hope to roll something like that out when we get more information and have that person on board. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jim. Okay, anything else, Stephen?
Gary, I'll jump in just to add on to that too.
Okay.
There's 20, well, there's actually 36 discretionary funds. There's 20 new discretionary funds in the bill, or the IIJA, the new bill. It puts a lot of emphasis on the locals to apply. And as Jim mentioned, we'll have a contract employee to help, but, we'll really reach out to the employees. There's 20 new discretionary funds. How those are administered, what the allocations are still to be determined by Federal Highway and US DOT. But as we move forward, there's going to be a lot of emphasis put on the locals for submitting these applications. This discretionary pots of money won't really be allocated directly through Eastgate. You'll apply either through, whoever is determined to be that the administrator of those funds. So, as we learn and hear, we'll definitely keep everyone posted. But it's going to come fast and furious. So we all need to be ready.
That's good insight, Ken. No, I appreciate that, because with the rollout of that township stimulus, we saw there were a lot of hoops to jump through, a lot of work thrown onto the locals for a little bit of money. Hopefully, there's a lot more money to go around with this bill, to where the efforts can be rewarded a little more. But anything else, Stephen? Any more questions? All right, thanks, Stephen.
Nothing else for me, Gary. Thanks.
Okay, today we have Michael Baker is going to be giving us a presentation on the Lordstown Smart Logistics Hub Study.
Hello, this is Jim Katsafanis with Michael Baker International, and hopefully my background will give everybody a little bit of more festive spirit given the weather today. I have part of my team here as well, Jamie Slobodin with Michael Baker and Stephanie Tresso with Murphy Epson, and they're going to be here to support any questions or anything else that comes up as we go through this. But I'll kick off what we've accomplished here in the last couple months. We kicked off this study in November. One of the big things that we've accomplished just very recently was actually a rebranding. So we've been working on that, and in the old name, getting away from a centric name of Lordstown, we've come up with a a name that's Logistics Innovation and Vehicle Electrification Hub. So really an acronym that ends up coming out as Live Hub. So I'll describe a little bit more, what this entails as we move forward. And I do hope everybody can see my screen. I think I am sharing the screen. If I'm not, let me know. Okay. I see nods. All right. So just to get everybody level set here on what the project's all about, I know that there's probably some folks that aren't too familiar with exactly what this project's about, but within the location of the Lordstown area, within Trumbull and Mahoney County, we have really a good opportunity here to be a logistics leader. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes, but 19% of all national freight moves through this area. So really this being a center and having ties to rail, good highway system, airport, all these different kind of modes, we have a good opportunity to make this and build upon this as a great area for logistics. And really, how are we going to do that? We need to have this united vision, a coalition, if you will, of all the players, the public and the private entities
Jim,
that are going to really
sorry
help.
to
Yes.
sorry to cut you off here, Steven Zubik.
Sure.
I don't think we're seeing your screen shared.
Oh, you're not? Okay.
Few of us aren't seeing it.
Okay.
Maybe try and share it again.
Yep. Oh, yeah. I clicked on screen too, but I'm sorry about that. So now you're seeing it.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay. Yep.
Sorry about that.
No, that's my fault. Thank you for letting me know. Let me move one of these windows off of here. There we go. So really, so how do we make this happen? Excuse me. It's really, sorry, I clear my throat. On-road automation, electrification, smart and digital infrastructure is some of the angles and things that we're looking at and reviewing. And ultimately what we want to come out with is an implementation strategy that is going to allow us to, have a good roadmap of how to further funding opportunities and garner public private support for this project moving forward. So that technology ecosystem that we're going to be building is really going to be looking at multiple industries and tying that with freight logistics. And then how do we bring the technology that could include electrification, automation, connectivity, and how do we tie all that together to bring an innovation and build innovation and make something that's very exciting and people that we want an economic development opportunity here of how we get people excited about this. So one of the things as we went through some of the early efforts is, there has been a lot of efforts, and Eastgate has laid a lot of great groundwork for this project. They've invested in, looking at build grant previously, and, a fantastic groundwork has been laid. And a lot of it talked about the what and the how, but not necessarily about the why. So we felt like we needed to go back and really define what the vision of this project was and what the hub would be. So really, it's an opportunity to make a scalable and innovative ecosystem that ties together the infrastructure using smart technology, and really with the ultimate goal to retrain the workforce. A lot of loss of manufacturing over the years, but really retraining the workforce in the technology and building up the economy. So that was really what our vision statement that we were moving forward on this project. And to that end, we also wanted to develop goals. And I'm not necessarily going to go through these in the limited time we have, but we really bucketed the goals into 3 areas, really from a technology and planning and deployment. So how can we use this scalable technology to provide a safe environment, improve safety? How can we improve the resiliency of the electric grid? How are we going to, enhance freight mobility and automation through automation and smart infrastructure. So, that's from that perspective. We also looked at it from a perspective of the economic development. So how do we cultivate this economic development through technology? How do we improve the reliability of the regional supply chain are two of the big economic development goals. And then lastly, a collaboration goal. Our goals. So looking at how do we innovate? How do we make this a great incubator for growth and to bring more businesses and bring more opportunities in? And also, how do you collaboratively invest between the public and private sector? So one of the things we did also was looking at the needs from both a stakeholder interview and engagement process, but also looking at a freight needs assessment. So these are some of the key highlights and takeaways. We really have a key location, as I mentioned before, the 19% of all U.S. freight. This really positions it really as an ideal location to bring and invest in something like this. There is a lot of available land, which really speaks of the growth opportunity, and there's a lot of interest. And really we have to look and see how do we make this, how do we turn the corner and really build upon what's already been done. And there's a lot of investment that's happened already, and how do we continue the momentum? And that's where the collaboration and the public-private partnerships are going to be vitally important. But to that end, we also probably need to dig into a little bit more and find out about what businesses and prospective businesses really need and want out of it, as well as gauging Lordstown, the village of Lordstown, a little bit more in kind of what their vision is. So, and sharing that information. So I'm going to walk through kind of what our draft vision plan is right now, and this is very early in a draft, but this is kind of the concepts that we have been coming through and developing. And it really, if you look at the Lordstown and the Jackson Township area, they kind of like are a hole in the donut, if you will. We have these regions that are, there is some activity going on in terms of manufacturing and logistics in these areas, but then they're surrounded by farmland. And then on the outer part of it, or the donut part, is, we have the cities of Warren, we have Youngstown and whatnot. So the airport as well. So, there's kind of this center of the donut, and, this is a great opportunity to attract people, businesses, and jobs to this area and build upon what's been done so far. So if we really start looking at where those existing businesses are, this is very enlightening. If you really look at from a logistics and a manufacturing and an energy, a clean energy perspective with the energy center, you look at it, this map at the scale that it is, it's kind of hard to envision, but you really look at it, you really have a lot of businesses, and this is north. So if you're looking this side here, if you can see my cursor, is actually it's mislabeled. This is Lordstown and this is Jackson, so I apologize for that. That's a late change here, that we flipped this map and I didn't notice that was wrong. But if you look at them, this is being Lordstown, this is Jackson Township. There is a lot happening with all these different types of manufacturing business and logistics businesses. So what we vision on this project is really, I'm going to start talking about how we're going to layer, we'll layer the different technologies and the different, what the vision is here. But from the first perspective, we're looking at triple trailer breakdown yards. So that would be at, we have a split interchange off of the turnpike, and really looking at the triple trailer breakdown, that really provides an opportunity to break down triple trailers that aren't legal on other roadways. When you go into Pennsylvania, triple trailers aren't legal to be run. So this provides an opportunity for for offloading those trailers and doing transfers there. We want to look at from an EV perspective that we provide, long haul trucking that's in the future is going to be electric, the opportunity to charge there, looking at alternative fuels as well, and also a truck parking management system. So this would allow for, the turnpike folks to, to have some benefit for truck parking, which is always a challenge that everybody is dealing with. So having an automated truck parking type of system to tell the drivers how much parking is available. But the big key here on the yards is actually the smart yard. So this smart yard is where we would have automated breakdown container lifter type of system. So this would be where trucks would pull in. They would be automated to unload the vehicles and help transfer for materials or loads or freight from one system to another, so to speak. And then also, this would include opportunity charging. So these would be electric vehicles that would be doing this transfer, and they would be being able to charge opportunity charging in that location as well. So how do we tie that all together? We tie that together with a smart corridor. So the smart corridor is really about on-road automated freight. That could either be dedicated lanes or mixed traffic lanes, and that would have to be something that we still have to evaluate whether road diet is possible. If economic development takes off in this area, certainly we don't want to constrain ourselves with traffic and other issues. So looking at what the impacts are going to be with on-road automation. So these would allow for the connection between rail, the smart yard, to the different businesses, and we would be able to transfer the freight with autonomous systems. And then potentially in the future, we would have the opportunity to do inductive road charging, for example. Is a P3, and that way, these could be charging could occur while they're in transfer and in movement from one place to a location to another. So to really tie all that together, what we need is a logistics management system, and that system would, sorry, I hit one too many buttons. Logistic management system is really an artificial intelligence driven type of system that is going to mission driven system that is going to help with these freight movements. So every time a business that is going to be participating in this logistics system, they would have missions, and those missions would mean that there's a prioritization and a process that's going on with the automation and the artificial intelligence to determine, kind of like almost like an Uber reservation system. When you call an Uber, it would look and see, okay, you have a mission, and I would be able to say, okay, I'm going to use this particular vehicle to move your freight needs from one place to another. So we want to tie all these businesses together through this mission driven system. And we could expand this beyond outside the reaches of the hub into Youngstown, Warren, the airport, and those would be more of standard. Outside the hub would be done with people-driven automation, but they would still be part of the reservation system. Within the hub themselves, they would be automated. So over time, we could continue to build out this network of automation, as funds and time permits, and technology improvements occur. We can build this thing out to include the region and beyond just the hub. And then really to make all that work, we need a data communication system. So this could include fiber broadband, but also at each business, we would have something similar to what we call a communication totem. So some type of communication structure or pole that would have different technologies, to be determined, but Internet of Things type of network, 5G with edge computing, are possibilities, and that would, provide the communications that would be required to run this entire system and have the communication between the infrastructure and the vehicles as well. Another layer, this could be AV or automated transit. So WRTA runs current long haul bus routes to Lordstown, North Jackson, or Jackson Township, and running those long haul bus routes in the future could be automated electric buses, and so we would bring those and tie those in, as well as also providing first and last mile shuttle service from the bus stops. So tying into the different businesses to allow for the opportunity to bring employees to from those outlying areas of the donut and bring them into where the jobs are and getting them to work. And then the last phase of this ends up being, and I don't want to say phase because we really haven't figured out the implementation, but really the last part of it ends up being, what other regional network improvements are needed, from, interchange improvements, rail crossing, grade separation that may be needed, traffic signal enhancements as well. So to that end, is there any questions that anybody has?
Yeah, I don't see any questions, Jim. Anything else in closing?
I don't. Stephanie or Jamie, do you have anything to add?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you.
That was real good. We do have another map. We'll have to get back to you with that. Really shows the donut metaphor really well. I think Jim really did a good job with focusing in on kind of the evolution of the plan, but we have a lot of material behind this as well. So.
Yeah, and I think some of our next steps too that I failed to mention is we're going to be looking. We started looking at what we call readiness assessment. So how ready is this technology, and then also looking to see what others are doing across the country. So we've done those efforts in draft form, and we're pulling that information together. But really, what that's going to do is that's going to inform, ultimately what we want to develop is that implementation plan. So the implementation plan is going to look at funding sources and opportunities, technology readiness, so we can kind of figure out what, how do you stage what you're going to build. We're not going to build this all at once, but it's really, making sure that technologies, we want to look at it cutting edge versus bleeding edge, and make sure that we're doing the right thing and figuring out how this all fits together.
And then another next step, just to add to that, we are working through kind of an economic assessment, and Jim and the maps that we show have the properties that we're aware of from the Economic Development Corporation websites that are currently for sale and being marketed as either kind of business or industrial type applications. That's in the range in Lordstown proper is around 1,100 acres that we know of, and then Jackson's probably another almost 1,000, not quite. And but there is a lot of land available, and there may be some other interests of selling land and so forth. So we're trying to understand that, but we are doing scenario testing to show different ranges of economic development and secondary impacts if things were to happen, and we're kind of doing it on gross acreage terms, but we also want it grounded in reality. So I think we're making good progress on that, but any input on that is appreciated.
But I just want to comment, Jim Kennick, Jim, great presentation, and for the group, and we meet every other week to continue the updates and continue to add information, data, ideas, and expand the footprint. I certainly applaud the effort to kind of rebrand it to the Live Hub or whatever the tail end of that'll be, but drop in Lordstown because it is a regional look. It's nothing against Lordstown, but we don't want to be so refined that we're just looking at the Lordstown area, North Jackson. But you know what we've seen even from Altium and working with the chamber and the Port Authority, the supply chain companies that are coming into this area and looking in the area aren't just looking in that region. They're looking at Warren, they're looking at the east side of Youngstown, they're looking at Cashflow properties. So they're looking at all. So again, what the effort we're making here, and you guys are laying the footprint and providing the path to move forward, is a regional approach, and we applaud that.
Hi, this is Judy Rodriguez with WRTA. I do have a comment. Is there any way that you're going to start involving us with it as far as the transit so that we can look at the maps and everything?
Yes, we'll absolutely engage you. I appreciate you pointing that out. What we've come up with is literally these maps were, just kind of putting together and vision. So we had a basically what we said a brainstorming, a visioning session, and this is just really culminated very, very quickly here. So we further intend to have discussions with you folks.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Okay. No, if that's it, no, thank you, Jim, to you and your team. We look forward to seeing more as this study moves forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And next we got Grant. He's got two items on the agenda: the 22 bike and pedestrian plan, and then the 22 safe routes to school. Grant.
Hi, everyone. So the first thing is the bike pedestrian plan update. We have begun with the collecting of public input for bike plan stuff. We just got put up onto the website. Under our bike and pedestrian page is an input map and an input survey. The survey is a typical survey that somebody can go through. They answer a few questions about what's important to them in the region, what types of infrastructure they find useful. Ask them some specific location stuff, such as locations that they'd like to see improvements or locations where they feel like they can't use infrastructure to get places, and a little bit about safety. And then the companion there is the map that actually people can go in, select that they want to put something about a safety issue. And it allows them to actually put a point right on the map, put a comment about why that spot's an issue, and then submit it just like that. So we'll actually start getting a map potentially populated. They'll have a bunch of these different locations that people are finding that they'd like to have more infrastructure, or they don't feel safe and can't walk in these regions. So we're hoping to put both those out there as, even if they don't feel comfortable using the map, they'll still be able to go into the survey and type in some locations. So we'll still be able to get different methods of collecting from people. And the next thing we're going to be doing actually is going to be taking some physical printouts of the survey and actually taking them out there for people that don't have access to the internet or don't feel comfortable using the technology, that they'll still be able to get a copy of the survey and go through and fill it out and get it back to us. But those are up on our website now. We'll be doing some social media stuff here soon to get those shared out and hopefully get a lot of people sharing them. And I've already spoken with a couple groups that are interested in sharing that out. So we want to try to get, not just bike groups interested, but we want to get everybody's opinion on this stuff. And so hopefully we'll be able to get some more people sharing in this stuff. Any questions about that aspect? Okay, next thing is about Safe Routes to Schools update. Last month, they updated and added in the new Safe Routes to Schools application cycle. It is available up until March 4th. There's $4 million is available across the state, and you can actually apply for infrastructure or non-infrastructure activities. So the infrastructure will be your sidewalks within 2 miles of the school or crosswalks, but non-infrastructure actually can do public awareness campaigns and some other stuff like that, which can help with, if you don't necessarily need sidewalks, you at least help with the education aspects. And so next slide. So requirements for applying are a map of your students within 2 miles, a map of the crashes from the last 5 years that have been within 2 miles, documentation about how students are traveling to and from the school, such as like doing a different ways of communicating with the students, the parents, surveys, stuff like that. Look and have the projects as priorities through a school travel plan or an active transportation plan. And if you do a school travel plan, it has to have been updated within the last 5 years, and an active transportation plan has to have some aspect of the schools usually involved in it, somehow that it's been called out that there is a school component to this. And then it has to be submitted to the ODOT District 4 Safe Routes School Coordinator, which is Chris Surma. Next slide. So, and then when they go through, they evaluate based off of what improves connectivity, improves safety, how many students are within 2 miles, the need, and how accurate your application is. So we're able to help with a lot of this stuff, so feel free to reach out if you need any help with anything or you're interested in applying. And if you don't have a school travel plan or an active transportation plan, and also help get you on the path at least to working towards those. Any questions related to that?
Grant, with the school travel plan, is there funding available to perform one of those plans? Or do you provide assistance to the communities for those plans?
So, some of the stuff for the school travel plan can have some assistance, can be done by us just with the data stuff, which is I can get together actually very easily. A lot of school travel plan comes down to doing more of like the student surveys and stuff like that. That's a little bit outside of where we are. I believe that there's actually a way you can actually apply through Safe Routes to schools to develop the school travel plan through funding, but I would have to double check on that because that was actually something I only saw yesterday that I had not been aware of, but I don't have any more information on that. That's something I got to look into. But mostly the travel plan comes down to taking a little bit of data, putting together a group to look at what the needs are, and then surveying students and parents to make sure you're involving the public.
Okay, thank you, Grant. Okay, I don't see any other questions for Grant at this time. Okay, moving on. Next, Myrta's up. She's going to update us on the transit programs.
Thank you, Gary. First thing, next slide, please. First thing I'd like to talk about is Eastgate administrative modification that was conducted between Eastgate and ODOT Office of Transit. ODOT Office of Transit notified us in mid-January that they received funding and approval from Federal Highway Administration and Federal Transit Administration for the project in WRTA's project for fixed route service in the city of Warren. Basically, they received CMAQ funding, state CMAQ funding, and what we did with the admin modification was to change the funding source for that project. CMAQ state funding is flex funding, and originally that funding was OTP funds, which is the Ohio Transit Partnership Program funding. So basically, we just changed the funding source because it was approved for flex funding, ODOT's flex funding for that program. And that was done in mid-January. Next slide, please. The next thing I want to talk about is ODOT and FTA's 5310 funding announcements. There have been some changes on the state level. This year, it begins the transition of ODOT's transit applications for funding from a program-based approach to a project-based approach. For example, if an agency needs to replace 2 vehicles, that agency will submit one application for 2 vehicles, with each vehicle being a separate project, as each vehicle is scored separately. The program coordinators at ODOT will evaluate both vehicles, and if there are awarded determine the best federal and state funding programs for which to fund the vehicles. So under the 5310 program, which is now taken over the Ohio Department of Transportation, is the designated recipient of those funds. A letter of intent is a tool that they will be using to determine program eligibility. Note that only one letter of intent needs to be submitted for all projects, and there will be one application for all programs available for funding. The application workshop will be a virtual meeting, not in person, and both the letter of intents and applications will be submitted in what they call Form Stack. The application workshop will go through the new application form and cover all programs at once, meaning there will not be separate workshops for each program. So the letter of intent deadlines are February the 9th, 2022. The letter of intents are due to ODOT hopefully before 11:59 p.m. on the 25th of February. Mandatory application workshop that's going to be announced by the ODOT Office of Transit, and the application will be available on March 23rd. Applications are due into ODOT April 29th before 1:59 p.m. and the project awards will be announced by ODOT on July 15th. All of these dates are subject to change with the Ohio Department of Transportation, and but the program dates and the timeframes where those applications are due are will be set in stone. Next slide, please. The next thing I wanted to talk to you about. Yes.
Berta, it's
Yes.
Mike. Question regarding 5310. Have we received anything from the ODOT, the governor's office, that they're taking this over, that they're taking 5310 over for this area?
The letter for the 5310 designation has been signed.
Yeah, have we got anything official that they're actually taking this over and it's not happening down here?
Yes.
We have?
I will forward the documents that I received from the Ohio Department of Transportation.
Okay, because I haven't received anything, that's why. So I didn't know if we were still under WRTA or state. I know we were supposed to be going to the state, but I haven't received anything. So if you could forward that to me, that'd be great.
Okay, that sounds like a plan. Thank you, Mike. The next thing I wanted to talk about was the 2021 awarded 5310 projects. There were two types of projects that were awarded. There were traditional projects and non-traditional projects. The traditional projects were the Antonine Sisters received a modified minivan in the amount of $67,970. WRTA will be receiving an electric LTV vehicle costing $250,000. The Trumbull County Board of Commissioners received $590,121 for transportation in Trumbull County. The non-traditional projects that were awarded under this program was the first time that this has been awarded, and Liberty Township received $446,424, and the City of Warren received $296,560 for their particular project. Between the two counties, over $1 million was allocated into our urbanized area. A lot of those projects were awarded in Trumbull County, and congratulations to those applying for those particular grants. We will continue to work with the grantees in Trumbull County, and Gary, and I know that you've been very instrumental in helping move some of these projects through with the project estimates. That concludes my report. Thank you, Gary.
Okay, any questions for Myrta? Okay, thank you, Myrta. Okay, next Justin is going to discuss the fiscal year 23 planning grant application. Justin.
Thank you, Gary. And So with regards to the planning grant, most of you may be aware that we ran a program cycle just this past year where we awarded 3 projects that are currently ongoing and making progress towards good project completion at the end of this fiscal year. But because we've heard a lot of outreach about this program and desire to kind of boost the program, we decided to run a funding round kind of concurrently. So starting with this next fiscal year, we're going to award another round of projects potentially for this planning grant. So we have kind of reviewed the program a little bit and are making some slight tweaks just to kind of make some efficiencies, make it easier on everybody involved. The idea and the intent behind the program still remains largely the same. So you'll see on this slide, we want to be able to provide this capital capacity to you to be able to perform planning projects. That's something that we've heard over and over, is that sometimes it's difficult to do the work in-house because of lack of staff or time to dedicate to those types of activities. So hopefully this can fill into there. And in addition to that, there's a lot of planning needs on our end that we identify through some of our larger programs that we'd like to advance into implementation. So this helps us take another smaller step by having these plans developed at the local level to advance some of those larger concept regional ideas that tie into our documents like our MTP or our bike ped plan. So this really is a way for us to help you, to help us, and everybody moves forward. Also on this slide, you'll see the program principles. For any of you that are familiar with this program, those have remained the same. Still focused on active transportation, complete streets, preserving existing infrastructure, supporting economic development, and enhancing quality of life. So all of those same components, same focus of the program. We are making a couple small changes. So on the application front, we're kind of moving away from the pre-application aspect of it. After running this for a few cycles, recognizing that there seems to be a pretty good understanding of what's eligible, what projects are likely to be successful, we're going to make the full application available at the very start for everyone. However, if you need help developing your idea or you're interested in the program but just don't really have a direction yet, please reach out to me. Door's always open, happy to talk about this program and talk through ideas with anyone at any time to really help you put together the strongest application possible. A small change to project selection. In the past, we have put together a small selection committee that goes through the scoring and provides recommendations. Just to ease the process and ease the burden on those folks. We really appreciate the time and effort that those folks dedicated in the past. But we're going to rely on the TAC and CAB's advisory capacity. That's kind of why you're here. We're able to present to you our work for your review, and then you can provide back your comments. So we're building that into this program this year where we're not necessarily having a selection committee. There will still be scoring criteria and there will still be a scoring rubric, and that will come out with the program guide. But kind of that advisory support is going to come from our TAC and our CAB. So we're going to hear directly from the communities of the region, directly from the residents of the region, kind of comments and thoughts about all of the applications that come in. And that'll help us make our final project selections. And then lastly, changes to reporting and accounting. So for reporting, we're going to throw in there just simple kind of progress updates quarterly as these projects kind of progress through their process, just to make sure everybody's keeping pace and keeping track. I think it's a good way to keep everything kind of front of mind as these projects are moving through. And then accounting, we're working with our partners at ODOT, talking through some ways that we could really make some efficiencies and make this easier on everyone. I think, the way this program has operated has kind of been, there's a couple steps involved with the reimbursement process. So we're looking at ways that we could simplify that and really help everyone move through this process as easily as possible. So the quick and dirty of the program, still $30,000 total available. So we'll fund You know, great project for 30,000 that requests it all. You know, that's a possibility if we're breaking it up, like in funding 2, 3, 4 projects. Possibility really just shakes out what those applications are like, what the feedback we get. A slight change to the local match, still a minimum of 10% cash match required. However, that no longer factors into the scoring. So in kind of the review of this program, we wanted to make sure that it was fair for communities of all size. So we didn't want to place an undue burden or place communities that didn't necessarily have that cash match capacity at a disadvantage. Only requiring that 10% cash match, I think, makes that a more level playing field for all of the communities in the region and will help everyone. Like I said before, only eligible for planning activities. So this isn't for preliminary engineering, not right of way, no design, any of that. So this is true planning. So you're identifying an area and looking at options to make improvements. Full application should be detailed to act as kind of a scope of work so that we could take that application and help you, you know, in whatever way you need from us to bring in a consultant to do this work. And then communities follow your own consultant selection process. We're here to help at every step of the way if you need us, but really this is driven by you once the project selection occurs. Through a quick timeline here, February 21st, we're gonna have the finalized program guide. So that's gonna have all the nitty-gritty details in there about what are the questions we're asking on the application. What's the scoring look like? What are the new kind of accounting and reporting requirements? All of that will be included in the program guide that goes first. March 1st, we're going to open applications up for everyone. April 1st, we'll close that application period. And then on the 7th, we'll bring those applications to present to TAC and CAB. So that'll kind of be the first chance to take a look at what communities applied for. And then, you know, receive comments up until that next meeting on May 5th. And that'll help us really make that project selection decision. Leading up to June 6th, where we'll submit the selected projects for policy board approval. We'll work with those selected applicants to get a subaward agreement in place. And then July 1st, this program kicks off. And like every other time, it's a one-year project period. So those projects would conclude June 30th of 2023. So hopefully that gives everyone the widest possible outlook of the timeline for the program. Anybody has any interest or questions, our planning grant page will be updated. Like I said, on the 21st, that program guide will be found there. We'll also make sure to get that out. Have any questions, thoughts, ideas, you're even vaguely interested in the program, please feel free to reach out to me. Always happy to talk about it and help take the step to getting some good planning done.
Any questions for Justin? Okay, I guess not. Okay, thank you, Justin. That's a good program. Quick turnaround on that too, so it's much appreciated. Thank you. Next, Stephanie is going to discuss the final Mahoney River Corridor Revitalization Plan.
Thanks, Gary. Good morning, everyone. I am going to put the link to this document that I'm about to talk about in the chat box. So this way, anybody who wants to access the document can do so. Just copy and paste the link that, again, I put in the chat section. So last month, we had what I would call a soft announcement regarding the final document of the Mahoney River Corridor Revitalization Plan. So today I wanted to bring that to everyone's attention because now this is a living document that needs to be moved forward rather than placed on a shelf for, you know, rainy day when, you know, we need some projects to do. So moving forward, next slide, please. So if you remember, the study area for this plan was as far as Newton Township all the way down to the Ohio-PA state line in Lowville. So that was our scope that we looked at. This was more of a second document out of two that was funded through the ODNR state biennium funds a couple years ago. So the first part of this whole study was with regards to the hydraulics of the Mahoney River regarding the dam removal projects. But this one, the revitalization plan focused more on, well, how do we bring the river back and the communities that surround it? Next slide, please. So about the general plan itself, the plan is done in two sections. So the first section is the general overall plan, and then the second part of the plan is what we call community toolkits. And right now I'm going to go over the actual plan. So the plan is very general in scope. It's regional, and it encourages connectivity between all of our communities that embrace the Mahoney River. Next slide. One thing I do want to point out is that there is something for everyone in this plan. You know, granted, it came out of the Environmental Planning Department, but this document also supports recreation and access. It supports community development, as well as, you know, bringing in the economic side of it. And again, like I mentioned, you'll see the community specific toolkits in the end. So again, when you take a look at this plan, keep in mind, one, what your interest is, and you can go straight to either that section or look beyond your interest and get in to see how, you know, maybe, for example, economic development does tie into recreation and or access, or vice versa, recreation tying into economic development. So they're all one that connect together and are, like I said, regional in scope. Next, please. The community action plans, the two little bubbles that you see on the left of this slide are examples of the plans. I chose Newton Township over on the far side of our study area in the city of Struthers. These toolkits are, one, they were local stakeholder driven. MS Consultants had several meetings with communities during the pandemic where they were all invited to come to a local central place within that community to provide background as far as what they saw recreational, what they saw as economic development for their specific community. So these toolkits were locally driven, and they discussed the future of not only just what the Mahoney River will be, but the communities surrounding it. The community action plans, like I said, the regular plan is more broad in scope, whereas these community action plans are more narrow and, again, community specific. Next slide, please. In each plan, you will see that the document identifies opportunities. So whether those look like economic development opportunities, green space opportunities, connectivity corridor opportunities such as bike trails, water trails, connecting industrial urban areas to the river. This is what those action plans are actually doing. It maximizes our development in natural features that are within that community along the river, and it provides areas where accessibility is more prominent with regards to accessing the Mahoney River. Next slide, please. So again, in each community plan, there are defined projects. These projects were identified by local stakeholders or what looked like a next possible step would be. So for example, there might be a bike trail. So you would have a connection between, for example, Mill Creek Metro Parks to, say, the Stabbage Trail. So in the city of Youngstown's community toolkit plan, there would be a project that would discuss that connection. Along with that, you would have funding identification. So the shopping cart is already full with your projects and you're going to check out, and we already have the funding for your projects identified. So these are some ideas on where you can go and get your plan implemented. And ways that we can attract people to not only just the region, but to your specific community. I remember there was a meeting that we had with Bracefield Township community folks, and one of the ideas was using the area of the Mahoney River that contained oxbows and turning it into an area for like camping, where you would have lodges where people could actually go to that area and just have some recreation, be away from hecticness, and just kind of have that local Hocking Hills effect. Next slide. So the next strategy, of course, let's put this plan in motion. And I know that with the upcoming part-time staff member, we'll be able to help put this plan in motion, as well as through the environmental department program. So as you take a look at your community toolkits and or the plan in general, if there's something that you would like to implement, please, take the time to let us know if, you need any help filling out those applications and or providing details to support your application to fulfill the action items. Any questions?
I don't see any questions from the group. Thank you, Stephanie, for that report.
Thank you.
Okay, next, Kathy is going to discuss the ARC Inspire program and also the summer student STEM opportunities. Kathy.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to begin by giving you some updates within the ARC program. One is a funding opportunity and one is an educational opportunity. And you can find this information on our website under the top news. And I know Eric also sent out an email blast for you, as well as we have Justin providing the link for you on this presentation. So let's start with Inspire. Inspire is a $10 million initiative to address substance abuse within Appalachia. And mainly this grant program focuses on workforce to work. So for individuals maintaining sobriety and needing skills to re-enter the workforce, this is a program that can assist our communities with that. In particular, we have implementation grants available for you at a maximum request of $500,000. And we also have planning grants available, and that maximum request is $50,000. So within our website and on here, we have some information regarding some important dates and information for you. Certainly the link to the request for proposal is available here. And also the application portal will become active on February 7th. So if you are interested in applying for this Inspire program this year, I would encourage you to attend our virtual workshop, and that is going to be on February 24th. That link is live at this time. I know I registered yesterday, so whether you have been a successful recipient in the past or maybe you're new to the program, feel free to join us on the 24th for that workshop. Then this also requires a letter of intent, and those are to be submitted electronically on March 3rd, with your final application being due on March 24th. So we anticipate that the applications will be reviewed and the successful applicants will have that award notice around August of 2022, so this summer. So that is our Inspire program. And next, I'd like to move to the next slide to talk about some educational opportunities. This is one of my favorite programs. We get to engage our youth. This year we have a STEM opportunity as well as an entrepreneurial. This information is on our website as well. And let's begin with the STEM. That is the Oak Ridge Appalachian STEM program. It's our summer science program. And this is for high school students, middle school students, and also teachers. And really what we're trying to do here is to spark an interest so that students consider the STEM field as their career, and they move forward into their educational training. So With the Oak Ridge summer program, the students have the opportunity to work hand in hand with professionals, as well as award-winning scientists. And the only thing they need is a desire to learn. They don't have to have a high GPA or anything like that, just a desire to learn. And we especially want to look at individuals who maybe no one in their family has ever graduated from college before. We are planning an in-person session this year, COVID permitting, of course, and that'll be in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. There is no expense at all to the student or to the teacher. It is whether it's their supplies or their lodging and so forth that is taken care of through the program. It's 2 weeks for high school students and teachers, and that will be July 9th through the 22nd and July 16th through the 22nd for middle school, just 1 week for them. The applications are due to be submitted electronically by March 4th. And if you could help us out, if you know a student or you want to pass this information on, we greatly appreciate that, because each state will submit at least 2 applicants per category. So 2 high school, 2 middle school, and 2 teachers. And we certainly want the Eastgate region represented. I know last year we had students participate from Youngstown and Ashtabula. So we'd like to see some strong representation again for that. And then the other program is our entrepreneurial program, or the AEA, which is Appalachian Entrepreneurial Academy. Now, this one is just for high school students, and it prepares them for leadership and entrepreneurial skills. They do receive a certificate of completion once they finish the program. And that is anticipated again in-person session, COVID permitting, in Boone, North Carolina, with no cost to the student at all. And that application is available online as well, with the due date of March 4th. So we hope to have some good representation from our area there as well. And those are the 3 items that I wanted to bring to your attention this time around for our Eastgate ARC program. Certainly, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. We're always willing to assist there. But if you have any questions, I'll be happy to address them.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. Okay, next we have Mark with an update on the Economic Development Program. Mark.
Thanks, Gary. Good morning, everyone. First item on the agenda here, I wanted to update you folks on 2 task order contracts that Eastgate advertised for in December. The state of Ohio received $1 million in non-competitive statewide planning and research funding from the EDA. In turn, they distributed $250,000 to each of the state's local development districts, with Eastgate being one. The 2 task orders we issued out, one was for general grant writing services. These proposals, when submitted, should align with our SEDS. They should be regionally focused, and they should really have something to do with the Build Back Better initiative. We're looking for jobs, we're looking for private investment, and all of that could benefit the region. MS Consultants was the selected consultant as part of that process. That project will begin probably sometime in March. Still finalizing some details there, so we will report back in further detail at the next TAC. Next, we have the Broadband Technical Assistance. This is a little more focused. This is going to follow closely along with our broadband feasibility study and the recommendations that were put forth. We issued that RFP in December. Ice Miller Whiteboard was the successful consultant, successful applicant. We look forward to beginning that process. As many of you know, broadband, $68 billion has been allocated through the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act to that over the next 5 fiscal years. So we look forward as a region to trying to capture some of that funding. Next slide, please. I reported it I think in December, we have some pending EDA applications. First being the Golden Triangle Infrastructure Improvements application. This one received very good news a few weeks back. They received a merits further consideration letter from the EDA. Anytime a project receives that notification, that means that they've passed the initial review process and that there was some further detail that the EDA had requested some revisions, some clarifications. I know Gary is very well familiar with those. And they actually just turned those back into the EDA yesterday. And so we hope to hear some positive news on the status of that award within the next few weeks, hopefully by March at the latest. But that would be a huge win for Warren, Trumbull County, and Howland down there in the Golden Triangle. Next, we have the Trumbull County Tourism Bureau Master Plan. They've also received an MFC letter. Essentially, they want to develop an all-encompassing regional tourism plan, focusing on all the great things in Trumbull County. I know that golf was a huge thing that Beth always talks to me about, all the wonderful cuisine we have and all the different things that you can do throughout the county. Crab Creek Corridor Redevelopment Plan. This was a application submitted by the city of Youngstown. They also received an MFC letter, so we've had some good luck this round. That wants to look at opportunities to redevelop the north and east side of Youngstown, sort of beginning as you head out of downtown. Again, with all of the projects that received MFC letters, not an official commitment from the EDA, but that you've passed really the hardest and most rigorous process thus far. But there's some lingering questions they have, and we'll figure out what those final announcements will be here in the coming weeks. Lastly, redevelopment strategy for the south side of the Youngstown Warren Regional Airport. Their application was put in a little bit later than the previous three I had mentioned, so they are still pending Investment Review Committee decision. We hope to find that out also this month, and then we'll move forward and continue to provide updates as all of these projects, as the announcements come in. Next slide, please. Lastly, I just want to touch on a few things. Already kind of dived into the broadband potential out of the IIJA. Myself, Kathy, Steve, Christian will be heavily involved in trying to find ways that we could tap into some of that funding for our three counties and the region as a whole. We definitely don't want to be left behind there, and we want to take advantage of each and every opportunity we can to improve what we call the big three: affordability, accessibility, and adaptability in broadband. Myself and Steve are also working on a broadband strategic narrative that could be sort of a companion piece to the feasibility study, and will also help to inform potential applicants on how they can begin to build out their narrative for grant applications. We're trying to make it very easy for folks, whether it's a municipality, a township, or a village, to just sort of insert their information, kind of plug and play, and then they'll be able to build out their application from there. So more on that effort to come. We do have it in draft form, not quite ready to release it yet, but we will report on that once that is completed. Lastly, just a few housekeeping items with the EDA. There's still time to apply for EDA, American Rescue Plan Act funding, particularly the Economic Adjustment Assistance Program. I've been advised by our EDA regional representative that those applications should be in no later than March 31st of 2022. However, I would advise that if you have a potential application, to get in touch with us as soon as possible. We'll start to try to get that process going. You'd probably want to get your application in as soon as possible. This, with the EDA, especially under the American Rescue Plan Act, they've been pretty much inundated with applications. The funding is going very quickly. And again, that deadline of March 31st is something that they've pointed out. There will be funding replenished into the EDA's regular program streams later in 2022, but it's important with the ARPA funding that comes with the attractive 80% federal funding, 20% local match that really would like to take advantage of it this time. Once they revert to traditional funding, it'll go back to 50-50. Lastly, again, as I've stated, if you do have something you're thinking of, potential EDA project or any projects in general, just get a hold of me. We'll talk about the competitiveness of that, how we can, get an application started, or in any other way that Eastgate can assist you. So with that, open it up to any questions you may have. If not, feel free to give me a call or send me an email. Email is on the screen down there. and I'd be happy to work with you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mark. And yeah, we're very hopeful on an announcement soon on that Golden Triangle EDA grant application. So it's going very well. Thank you to all the partners, both City of Warren and Howland Township on that. So thanks, Mark. Okay, now we're down to the Executive Director's report. Jim.
Great. Thanks, Gary. And again, thanks to the entire staff. We've been working remotely since a week before the holiday. Started that way because of the roof repairs for a couple of weeks. Then with the pandemic worsening, and hopefully things are on the downhill side of that, and we look to be back in the office as a complete staff on February 14th. We'll also roll out some kind of progress about hosting meetings, and we look forward to having everybody back in person here for these tax and general policies in the near future. I'm certainly wouldn't anticipate that any earlier than the spring, but we're making progress as the entire world. So good stuff, though. A lot of information in this TAC today, and again, I applaud the staff for keeping us moving forward as we are separated and working remotely. I do want to just comment on 2 or 3 things, and I'll be brief here. Great news on those EDA grants. I look forward to having some positive announcements in the near future. Getting to the second level for additional information with EDA usually is a very good sign. So we look forward to that. We'll also continue to roll out to our communities the ability to take advantage of the broadband and the general services when it comes to grant writing ability. And I think a lot will be a lot clearer, as I mentioned earlier in our meeting about our infrastructure investment and Jobs Act coordinator that we look to bring on in the very near future. I think that'll really lay the path for our communities and look to help and assist our communities in grants and additional funding down the road. I did want to state and just offer that we're working closely with the Chamber and the Port Authority to prepare some type of site readiness program so that when we look at, when we have investors, businesses, supply chain, industry looking to come in our area, that we can amp up our efforts by having shovel-ready sites. I think that'll help with our utility infrastructure study we have underway right now, but also work with those entities to address the top 10 sites and working towards getting them shovel-ready. And that maybe be wetland mitigation, it might be water, it might be any type of utilities or an access road, but if we're going to move the region forward, and I specify region because it's not just to look at one area, it's in all our counties, then we want to turn around and take a look at those top 10 sites and make them shovel ready. That's also a program that the Chamber it works with Jobs Ohio on, really getting into the weeds what we do here and making ourselves, positioning ourselves for progress. Lastly, I do want to comment that we worked with the Chamber to bring on a logistics person that will examine logistics in our area, create and start up and create a logistics council. You're going to hear more about that. The individual just started yesterday for the Chamber, but we're going to work closely with that. When we follow some of the footprints that were laid out in the successes of Columbus and Dayton and other areas from a logistics and distribution perspective, very successful when you create a council that talks about that and develops that. That way we could share their comments and ways to get better and really get the good word out about the position our region is when it comes to logistics. So a lot of stuff going on. I hope that recapped. I hope it didn't go too fast. I gladly take any questions. If anybody has anything that they need in for more information on, please contact me. But I appreciate everybody's time today. I know we ran long, but again, a lot of good information, and I hope it's helpful. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Any questions for Jim? Okay, yeah, once again, this month, the General Policy Board resolution will be sent out for everybody to vote on. That brings us down to announcements. Are there any announcements to go before the committee? Okay, no further questions or announcements. We did have a full agenda today. I appreciate everybody's attendance. We had really good participation today. That's always appreciated. Remember, no meeting in March. Our next meeting then will be Thursday, April 7th. So call the meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.